Yo, what is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over who I think are the most overrated and underrated fighters in the UFC to date. And yeah, man, let's just get straight into it. Without further ado, let's just jump into it. Starting off with Magomed Ankalaev, who I think is honestly pretty underrated at this point. I think that, on the come up, Ankalaev was seen as the dark horse of the division. I think that he was seen as, the most obvious number one contender, the most deserving guy. And he was kind of getting jumped in line. He was getting jumped by Yuri Prochazka that second time. He got jumped by Khalil Roundtree to fight Alex Pereira. And people were seeing this guy as like, oh, Pereira's ducking him. This guy's the most dangerous fight for Pereira. What happens when Magomed Ankalaev takes him to the ground and, starts grappling with him? What's Pereira going to do? And he was seen as the one guy who's going to give Pereira the tough test at light heavyweight. And we did see that happen, man. We did see Ankalaev outstrike Pereira in that first fight that they had. He had the slicker, quicker boxing combinations, landed clean on Pereira, and even rocked him a couple times. Landed good teep kicks, backed Pereira up a lot, and Pereira wasn't really able to get going on the feet or impose his game at all. He fought super scared, and Ankalaev was able to rack up a good amount of control time on the feet as well, just by holding Pereira against the fence and nullifying him. And yeah, man, I feel like even though he got chinned in that second fight, I just feel like after he got destroyed, in that second fight, it's been bad looks for him, just because he was talking a lot of shit into that, like in the lead up of that second fight. His manager Ali was just talking all this shit on Twitter, talking about like, I'm gonna send him back to the tire shop. And he was getting a lot of haters. He was racking up all the haters in the UFC community. And the MMA world just kind of didn't like Ankalaev and wanted to see him get humbled. And that's exactly what we saw. He just got humbled and just destroyed in 2 minutes. So, yeah, after that, a lot of people just kind of left this guy in the dust. Not many people are talking about Ankalaev, but I do believe that Ank is still one of the best guys at light heavyweight. If Pereira were to move up, which he probably will, he's going to go to heavyweight. I think that at that point, he's probably either the first or second best guy in that division. I will say I do think Yuri does beat him if they were to ever fight. I think that Yuri's probably the best guy at light heavyweight, but Magomed Ankalaev is a close second, and I think that he's the most well-rounded guy in that division. I think that Magomed Ankalaev, man, he's really well-rounded. He's got great, crisp, slick boxing, probably the fastest hand speed at light heavyweight. And he's got a great ground game. He's a judo world champion, and he's got good takedowns and good control on the ground. So overall, I think that Ankalaev is being underrated right now. But let's move on to our next guy who I think is very underrated. I think it's Tom Aspinall. I think Tom Aspinall is being underrated as well since that fight with Cyril Gane, man. I think that it's really unfortunate what happened. Tom Aspinall does not deserve the hate because obviously none of that stuff was his fault, bro. It's not his fault he got eye poked. It's kind of frustrating why the fans are turning on him. But still, I think that, Gane was being severely underrated in that fight against Tom Aspinall going into the fight. He was seen as kind of a bum. Like, he had just won a robbery decision against Volkov. Before that, he had taken a big, long layoff. And before that, he got subbed by Jones in, 2 minutes flat. So he wasn't really seen as much of a challenge for Tom. And I think the expectation was for Tom to just smoke him in, 2 minutes like he does all his other opponents. But obviously that didn't happen. And yeah, I think that the expectations on Tom Aspinall were too high going into that fight. Gane is still an elite striker. He's probably the most elite striker at heavyweight. He's the one guy that can match Tom Aspinall in speed. And he probably is technically a little bit better than Aspinall as well. So we saw Gane be able to really well fight behind his jab. He was able to come into the pocket in very slick moments and find good counters on Tom Aspinall as well. But man, Tom Aspinall was making reads, man. Tom Aspinall was landing back. He was making reads and landing good shots of his own. It's just the perception was that Tom Aspinall was getting pieced up because he was kind of getting busted up to the nose. He was kind of bleeding all over his face. But yeah, it wasn't like he was getting destroyed or anything, right? Gane was only leading on the scorecards by a couple strikes, by a couple jabs, right? But overall, I think that Tom Aspinall probably would have still found the KO if that fight were to have continued. And I think that Tom Aspinall in the rematch is going to be pissed off, and I think that he's going to smoke Gane in 2 minutes, man. I think he's going to destroy Gane and just knock him out. And he's going to be pissed off, man. So I think that Tom Aspinall is really being underrated because I do see a lot of people picking Gane in that rematch, which I think is honestly hilarious. I think Tom Aspinall is going to destroy Gane. But let's move on to someone who I think is a bit overrated now. Not severely overrated, but a little bit. I think it's going to be BSD, guys. BSD, right, he had a great 2025. He beat Kyle Prepolek. He beat Mauricio Rufy, and he beat Dariush. He beat Old Man Dariush. And it was a great comeback year, man. But I think we're forgetting. This guy got completely pummeled on the ground by Renato Moicano, bro. And there's something to be said about that. When your A game is grappling and you're getting destroyed on the ground, that's a little bit concerning. And I know Moicano's pretty decent on the ground. I know he's a good, Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist. He has decent submissions, but the guy's not really known for doing much damage on the ground, and the fact that Benoit Saint-Denis was genuine. He was bleeding so much on that ground against Renato Moicano on the bottom, and it was looking bad. It was looking like a fucking crime scene the way he was bleeding, bro. And yeah, I think that overall Benoit Saint-Denis is a bit overrated, right? Dariush, the guy has no chin. Like, the guy needs to hang up the gloves immediately, right? He needs to stop fighting. He has no chin. You literally touch him and he goes out cold. He goes snoozing. And I think that BSD, like, yes, he's pretty good okay, he's got good aspects to his game, both on the ground and on the feet, but I do think he's a bit one-dimensional in both those areas. I think that he's got a good body kick in the striking, but overall he's really slow on the feet. He's got slow boxing, not much boxing defense, and his chin isn't the best either. And overall, I just feel like he's not the best on the feet. There are a lot of fighters who can outstrike him pretty cleanly. If you have big power and you're accurate, I think you'll be able to snipe him down pretty easily. And I think that on the ground, he's got good jiu-jitsu. He's a decent submission threat. But, at the same time, he's not the best wrestler, man. I think that his entries are pretty sloppy. They're kind of slow as well. He doesn't have the best gas tank, so in the later rounds, he'll really just start shooting. He'll take sloppy, bad shots out in the open and get stuffed. And yeah, I just think that there are a lot of holes in his game that he can improve on. I think that he's a solid top 10 contender, but I don't think that he'll ever get within the top 5. I think that he gets destroyed by everyone in the top 5. Guys like Arman Sarukin, dude, if he fought Arman Sarukin, he would get taken down. He would be in full guard, and he would just get sliced up by elbows. Arman would destroy him and TKO him on the ground. So yeah, man, BSD, pretty solid contender, but I don't think he's getting close to the belt. Let's move on to someone who I think is a bit underrated. I think that it's RDR, man. I think that Rainier de Ritter, he didn't look great in his last performance. I'm going to be honest, he did not look good in his performance against Allen. That was a fight that he was totally supposed to win, right? Allen, he's kind of a goofy goober, right? And it was a short notice fight for Allen, so Rainier de Ritter started out strong. He won that first round pretty dominantly with the grappling. But then after that, every time he would go for the grappling, he would get reversed by Allen, who's a pretty good grappler in his own right. And he would just get laid on top of. He didn't even take any damage, but it was so embarrassing the way he would just get stacked, and he would just accept getting stacked. He wouldn't even try to fight his way up. And he just gassed himself out on the bottom. And it was so sad to see, bro, because this guy's a good contender. I like his personality. I like him. Honestly, I like his fight style a lot. And it's just amazing to me that he gassed out so quickly against Allen, but was able to push the pace against Robert Whittaker literally one fight before. He was in rounds 4 and 5, that's literally how he beat Whittaker. He pushed the pace, landed a bunch of knees, moved forward, and just pressured Whittaker until he broke. Which is it makes it all the more surprising how quickly and badly he gassed against Allen. And just a TKO on the stool, his corner throwing in the towel. It's just a horrible look, man. But I do think he's a bit underrated at this point. I think he's definitely going to be working on his S&C, his strength and conditioning following this loss. He knows what parts of his game he needs to work on. And also, I think he's still pretty good. I think he's solid and underrated in the feet. He's pretty sloppy, but it works. His style works. He's got long, rangy jabs. He's got good knees to the midsection. And yeah, man, he's got great elite grappling. So I think that he would still beat a lot of the people ranked under him. I think he beats Izzy at this point. I think he beats Cannonier, and I think he beats Roman Dolidze. And yeah, he's still a good contender, man. But let's move on to Carlos Prates, guys. Someone who I think is a bit overrated right now. I think Carlos Prates is a bit overrated. He's not super severely overrated, but I just think that he looked great in his last fight, but it was Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is the shittiest champion that we've had in so long. Aside from who? I guess Jamal Hill. Leon Edwards is one of the worst champions that we've seen in modern history. The guy sucks, bro. And it amazes me how he was able to beat Usman those 2 times. But okay, Colby Covington. Watched Colby Covington, who's 5'10", tiny for welterweight, and just he said shit about your dad. He made jokes about your dead dad, and you're landing 60 strikes on him the entire fight. You're just doing the bare minimum to win. You're not even chasing the finish, and you're losing the 5th round by getting controlled in the ground by washed Colby Covington. That's just you're not a killer, bro. Leon Edwards is I think he was super overrated in his prime. The fact that people are even talking about Leon Edwards versus Islam Makhachev as an interesting fight is amazing to me. And yeah, I think Leon Edwards has also always been a bit chinny. He got rocked by Nate Diaz. Not a good look. And yeah, he's just 2-1 decision against Cowboy Cerrone back when he was younger. Overall, Leon Edwards just not the best win. And I think that yes, Carlos Prates did win in a great dominant fashion. I just feel there's always going to be those holes in his game, man. Carlos Prates, he's got this pure Muay Thai style. If you have a shifty like striker who's able to move around, who's very lengthy, who's a good like slick, accurate striker like Ian Gary, he's gonna be losing those exchanges. And like, in the defense, Carlos Prates, he's got that Muay Thai style where he kind of just shells up and backs up. It's very linear, and I don't think it works against anyone who's elite. Like against someone like JDM, I feel like he probably, at least, like even if he catches JDM with something and wins, I just feel like he would lose most of that fight. JDM would consistently be able to outstrike him just based on having the better footwork, having the better defense, being able to get on the inside and box him up. Carlos Prates has great, accurate striking, but I think that it's kind of linear, and I think that the fact that it's purely just Muay Thai, first of all, leaves him very open to takedowns. He's kind of heavy on that back foot. He stands up super straight, and I think that he's less stationary now than before when he first fought Ian Gary. But I still think he's pretty susceptible to takedowns. I think that he definitely can get out grappled, and I think that he can get outstruck by someone who's got some good movement and defense as well as just good footwork. So yeah, man, let's move on to someone who I think is underrated at this point, Gene Silva, man. Another fighting nerd. I think that Gene Silva is being underrated. And yeah, man, this is the whole reason why I regard Diego Lopez so highly. I really thought that Gene Silva was a lock to chin Diego Lopez, and that didn't happen, dude. Lopez chinned Silva, and I broke that down a little bit in my last video for the Volk versus Lopez 2 prediction. But yeah, I think Silva's a great striker still. He can work a little bit on just not overthrowing as much, which I think is always going to be a problem of his, just because he loves to get those big flashy knockouts. He doesn't have the best mental fortitude, I'd say. He kind of copes a lot mid-fight. If he gets tagged with something, he'll try to do that like buddy high five shit that he always does, and it's really just cope, man. He really just copes with the fact that he's getting tagged. But other than that, and also he kind of fights like a dumbass sometimes. Like his fight IQ isn't the best. A lot of the times he like walks forward and he really tries to hunt a finish like he did against Diego Lopez, which is what got him knocked out. He really just disregards defense. And honestly, skill for skill, I think he's one of the best guys in the division. I think he's probably just honestly the best guy. Like I think that aside from Volk, he's the best striker just purely based on skill at featherweight. I think that he's still a bad matchup for Volk. Like if he were to get paired up or matched up against Volk right now, I'd be scared for Volk, man. I'd be very, very scared for Volk because of how much of a knockout threat he is. Diego Lopez is a blockhead of the highest order. Diego Lopez, the guy's got a chin on him. He's got such a good chin, man, which is the only reason why he didn't get chinned. Gene Silva was landing such big bombs on Lopez. He was landing left and right. He was basically landing at will. And his diversity of strikes, those weird spinning elbows that he does, the framing that he's able to get off, and then those teep kicks to the body, to the face, and those spinning back kicks, the wheel kicks, just everything, his body, head, like just overall that work that he does in that boxing is super, super clean. And I think that he's being underrated heavily now because, he lost kind of decisively. He just got kind of destroyed by Lopez in many of those moments. But dude, I think that he's still amazing in terms of fighting skill. He's a little bit annoying outside the cage, but he is extremely elite on the feet. And I think that, yeah, man, I think that he's still like arguably a future champion. But let's move on to our last fighter, who I think is very overrated. I still have two more fighters to talk about, but the last overrated fighter I'm going to talk about, he's not super overrated. Again, I don't want to hate on him too much. I actually love him. He's one of my favorite fighters. It's going to be Petr Yan, guys, but I do think he might be just a tad bit overrated. I think people are forgetting that he lost to O'Malley in that first fight. I do think that he did lose to O'Malley. A lot of people thought that it was a robbery, but I think O'Malley landed better, and I think that O'Malley just was able to rack up more points based on damage. And also, I just feel like while I do think that Umar Nurmagomedov would probably lose to Yan, I actually see Merab maybe winning the rematch in the trilogy. I do lean Petr Yan in that fight. I think he's made the right adjustments, and I think that he's downloaded the data for Merab to be able to beat him. But if Merab can diversify the way he gets takedowns, I think that he can, maybe just based on volume and control and pressure, be able to edge out a decision against Petr Yan. I think that's unlikely, but it could happen. But, man, people are forgetting about Merab training with Aljo, and Aljo also won a close decision against Yan, man. So I think there are certain components to Yan's game that could be improved that other fighters in that division could take advantage of. I think that the only reason why he's being overrated it's not because he's bad at all. He's one of the best fighters in the UFC right now, but I think because he's so highly regarded, people are kind of seeing him as like invincible. He can never lose again. And I do think that there are certain matchups where he could still find some trouble, like a Merab rematch, like a Sean O'Malley rematch. But yeah, let's move on to the last fighter we're going to talk about, who I think is underrated. JDM, guys. Jack Della Maddalena, I think, is underrated at this point, all because of that Makhachev win, or the Makhachev loss. It was a pretty brutal loss, man, but it was so boring. And I feel like, the one thing JDM did prove in that match is that he is kind of unsubbable, bro. He's got great submission defense. I just think all he needs to work on is his takedown defense. But even then, I think he had great takedown defense against Bilal, who's more of a traditional double, single leg type of wrestler, right? It's just because Islam's so well-rounded with his takedowns. He got judo as well. He can grab clinch and then get throws and get trips and stuff like that. That's how he's able to take down JDM most of the time. Honestly, it's just a horrible stylistic matchup for JDM. I guess that's how we found out, but yeah, overall, JDM's got, honestly, he's a good defensive grappler. He's very underrated on the ground, and his boxing, I think a lot of people are just forgetting that his boxing is the most elite in that division. I think he outstrikes guys like Ian Gary. I think he outstrikes Michael Morales, fucking like Sean Brady, Carlos Prates. I think he outstrikes all of them. He's really good. Now, I will say I can't confidently pick him to beat someone like Michael Morales just based on how big Morales is and how much of a tank he is. I struggle to see JDM being able to beat Michael Morales or chin him or something like that. I think that Morales might be able to catch him with a big winging hook coming in, and that's a fight that I would have to think a little bit more about. And Shavkat also would be a tough matchup for JDM. But overall, I think JDM, based on just technical boxing, he's one of the best in the UFC, maybe second to Ilia Topuria. And yeah, the guy's still a beast, man. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Are there other fighters that I've kind of missed who are overrated or underrated? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, today, guys, I just want to say I've been a bit tired. I've been a little bit burned out. But I'll try to come back tomorrow just more energized. But yeah, I've also had to switch recording locations today. So sorry if I sound a bit off, but I'll make sure to get back on track tomorrow. And I'll definitely come through with more analysis, more breakdowns of future fights. I'm excited for, the end of this big UFC drought. But yeah, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.